So I had you on because I just watched Timing, and I saw you tweeting about it. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, this fucking guy's in a movie, like not a documentary, like a movie. And shit, man, it's good.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, we shot it for the better part of a decade, so I'm glad it at least came out coherent.
That's funny. I mean, it's I can't, because you're in it, Akash, Mike Feeney, Tim Dillon, like a lot of names that we know and have had on the show. So it's weird to see like all these guests that we've had now on screen. But I feel like it really captures the essence, at least from what I would imagine, because I'm not in it the same way you guys are. But I feel like it really captures the essence of like New York City comedy and like the grind and how it fucks with the rest of your life and relationships and whatnot. We get a fraction of that with the blog as far as how it impacts your personal life or whatever. But I mean, it was some like heavy shit. It was funny at times, cute, romantic. I mean, it had it all.
Lot of tongue kissing, huh?
Yeah. So what was that like? I mean, is she an actress or is she a comic?
No, she's. Imagine I'm like, no, we just found her. No, she's an actress. I think she dabbled in stand up a little bit, but she's like a trained actual.
Right.
Actress.
I was gonna say
she's also a musician.
She's like
she brought it. She's very good.
It feels like that was
Gracie Carley,
actress Gracie, and then you were kind of like the comic trying this thing out, but for to be on camera with her and she's more like she knows what the fuck she's doing, Mike. Is that awkward or are you just like did you roll with it?
I think it would have been awkward if there was a script. Like
that was my next question. How much was it like you just were kind of riffing?
I mean, it was kind of like, so Alex Anderson, the director, he had the idea for the movie, came up with the concept. He knew what it wanted to look like. It was more in line with his story. A lot of that stuff I went through as well. Like I did Bark in Times Square, all those open mics. I've definitely left my now wife at, holding her dick at like, parties while I went and did a 5-minute spot at some shithole bar.
Right.
Like all of that stuff is really uniform across the board, but he mostly had like kind of scene ideas. And it was super ambitious at first because I think we had like 60 scene changes.
Wow.
And we're just guerrilla shooting it all over New York. And so once we got into a scene, though, 100% of the dialogue was made up on the spot.
Holy shit. And I mean, it's like, it's real conversations. Like, I mean, it's not just like quick little bits that I feel like you could fly through. That's really impressive because I was actually thinking how natural it sounded. And now that makes a lot more sense that, it really was like your own words and feelings.
Yeah, I think that's how you make somebody like me look moderately capable. You know what I mean? It's like I do podcasts, I do stand up, so I'm comfortable being in the moment. So when things have to be like created organically on the spot and not me memorizing and then accessing and then delivering, that to me made it a little more authentic.
That's a great point, actually. I mean, we've never done anything like a movie, but anytime I've done like a video or a viral thing, and I have like a script or whatever, it sounds terrible. Like we can't do that at all. Whenever I recite lines, you can tell I'm reciting lines. I guess you probably do that with Making a Gambler, where it's like you have a framework and then you just run with it.
We do exactly the same thing. We have like an idea and then we're just like, all right, everything on the spot now.
Right.
Because it would look ridiculous otherwise.
Exactly
like you're saying.
Yeah, I think I'm a big pothead also, so my memory isn't the greatest, but it takes certain mechanisms in my head to like remember things and then try to project them out. And if I'm doing all of that in my own head, I'm assuming it's not going to look real.
Right.
Now, did your wife see it? And did she see any lines where she was like, I know where that one came from?
All of it.
All of it.
The fighting scene. There's a couple fights, but one of the fighting scenes in the kitchen when she, gets this job offer, and then I finally like leveled up a little bit in comedy, and we're arguing, and she just turned to me. She's like, "You're not even acting. You're just a good arguer." She's like, "I've seen this piece of shit before."
And your wife, you've been with like since high school, right?
Yeah, I mean, since on and off since we were like 10 years old.
Yeah.
We literally grew up next door to each other, and she's, it's crazy that she's known me before this was even an idea in my head.
Right.
And now, she's totally on board with stand-up, acting, anything that I'm doing. She's pumped.
So you met when you were 10?
Yeah. We
That's-
met on the blacktop where they lined everybody up to get their buses in 5th grade.
So you met like 40 girls in your life, and you're like, this is the one.
No, we've each dated other people because that would be psychotic.
I was thinking, how am I going to politely navigate the rest of this conversation? Because I think if you meet and that's it, and you go with that person, you're a fucking idiot and a weirdo.
Totally, absolutely mentally ill. Not only, and also, I don't want the pressure of being the only penis my wife has seen or accessed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then what? She's just looking out into the world with like, wondering eyes, just seeing what else is out there. It's like, no, you see what else is a good fit, and then you come back to me when it's all
when you're ready to settle, come on down,
Yeah, exactly. Once you see everybody else is also a piece of shit, you come back to them.
That's so true. That really is. That's romance right there.
Oh, and the
date
same
around
for me too, dude. I mean, I've had periods where I slept with a majority of my high school, which also overlapped into my wife's friends. So it's like, it's just insane. She knows everything there is to know about me, and the simple fact that there is that transparency with us, it's made our relationship that much better.
Yeah, I feel like true love is accepting. If you accept me that I'm a piece of shit, that's true love.
Right. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
There's one scene in the movie, and I asked you if this was real. I don't want to spoil it, but at the same time, I think it's such a great podcast bit. So Mike gets approached by this chick after he does a set, and she's like overly into him, and she's like, let's go back to my place. And she handcuffs him to the bed and starts blowing him, and then her boyfriend comes home and starts screaming at her, and they fight, and it turns out this is what they're into, and it's like a cuck situation, and they fuck in front of Mike while he's handcuffed, and at the end he's like, yeah, man, like, sorry about that, like, hey, that's just kind of our thing. And he goes to him, I feel bad sending you home with a full bag. You want her to blow you? Like, it is just, and the thought now that I realize that this is all kind of improvised and all impromptu, the fact Mike's like, no, I'm good. It is.
Honestly, if that was me, I would have said yes.
Yeah.
100%. If that was based on my life, I would be like, you know what, buddy? If you could just take a walk down the hall, finish me off, and then send me on my way with a clear head.
I want to send you home with a full bag.
It's so good, dude. And we had talked after that I watched the movie, and I was asking how much of it's real, how much is not. And you were saying you think that it might have been at least based on a real story with the director?
Yeah, I think so the director, Alex Anderson, I started comedy with him. Him, Akash, and I all did the Village Underground for the first couple years. We barked outside of it. And, we liked, at the time, we likened it to like JV The Cellar. It was a junior varsity comedy cellar. It's where we were, just taking reps, getting our asses kicked. Every show was a nightmare. It was just very difficult. But also, you got to meet some pretty kooky broads. And I have been with my wife since I started comedy. So that, to me, wasn't even on the table. But Alex, the director, especially early in comedy when he wasn't sober, he was getting into some all sorts of shit. And I think that was one of the situations.
I feel like comedy, like part of... I always talk about how when I hear from you guys, it's like you got to start when you're like fucking 3 years old, right? And I also feel like part of it is doing it early enough that during all your formative years, you are also involved in the comedy world. You know what I mean? Like, normal people are not gonna, they're gonna have their stories, but they're not gonna encounter weird like groupie girls at an open mic who want to like fuck you, and I feel like it just kind of feeds the beast of comedy,
I think so too. I think it's a little dicier now, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You gotta make sure and have them sign a permission slip and all that stuff. But but I still get it. Like, I'll talk about my wife and my son on stage for a full hour, and girls will come up to me after being like, "So what's up after this?" And I'm like, "You're trying to ruin my life."
Yeah, and you're okay with that. That's wild.
Dude, I told a girl in Dewey Beach, she was a smoking hot chick, came up after me after a headlining thing, and she was like overly flirty in my face, and I was like, listen, like, you're a terrible person. You heard what I just talked about. That didn't bother you at all, and you're trying to get me to throw away my life. So what? I can come quick with you?
But did you say that? What'd you say to it?
Yeah. That's exactly what I said. Brendan Sagalow was right next to me, and he's like, "I'll take a blowjob."
Like the whole gang that was in it, was that like, you know, do you have all those guys in mind and you're like, let's roll, let's do it? I'm sure everybody was kind of excited to get involved.
I mean, Alex again, he was friends with Akash. He got all them. Kate Wolf is another comedian. She was in it. Tim Dillon. I mean, I was friends with Tim at that point already, but like, I think Alex was the one that reached out, and Tim's part.
He's such a cocksucker.
Not to spoil anything, but like, he's basically degrading me about comedy. And I remember it being so convincing that I was in a bad place for like a week and a half. After that scene, I was like, I know that was a scene, but like, that felt so real, probably was real. It like made me spiral about thinking if Tim meant it directly towards me personally. Like, it was
such an unbelievable asshole. It's like a 5-minute scene that is just like brilliant on his part of how much of a dick he is.
Tim knows exactly what to say to get anybody to give up.
So in general, you know, the movie is a lot about, you know, he's got this girl and she's got her own dreams, and how do you juggle it and how do you balance it? And I feel like that's something that really only people involved in, you know, music or comedy or acting, whatever, you know, trying to be like an entertainer, trying to basically chase like a pipe dream, can probably relate to. But I'm always fascinated by that, because I obviously, like, I fucked it all up and didn't handle it well and didn't like know how to balance it. But I feel like even if you're like successful in doing so, it still sucks, man. I mean, it is. Yeah. It's not an easy choice.
It's hard. I mean, I've gone through different like eras of myself throughout my career, and like initially I made zero compromises. My wife knew that, or my girlfriend at the time knew that, like, it was comedy first. I was 100% dedicated to this thing, and like the relationship, although I was super committed to it, it was a periphery thing. I was like, I'm so driven. My dad was an actor coming up, and then he had kids, and he always kind of blamed us for why he didn't succeed in acting, which is how you get a comedian. But I
so really, you should be thanking him then, Mike.
I know. No, honestly, it's a hard learned lesson. And that's why I didn't get married until I was like 30, 31. Yeah. Because I was like, I need to make sure that I'm at least relatively established in this shit. And, you know, and I know the direction I'm going before I fully legally commit. And I have a woman that's super ride or die and totally supportive. And I mean, you know, my wife has proven that over and over throughout the years, but it took me growing up and kind of recognizing that there needs to be a balance between, like, okay, we can do a night a week where we see each other, and then I, you know, go off and do my horse shit. But like, you know, it took a long time to get to that place and feeling of comfort to allow that, you know.